Rev up your engines!
The last quarter of earnings from GM and Ford, their stocks are going down, 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 and some people are wondering, are Ford and GM about to collapse? Now, the headline said, is the U.S. auto industry going to collapse? Well, let's face it, Chrysler pretty much has collapsed. They only make one car, the minivan. That's it. When Stellantis took over, they didn't care. They're shutting factories down, laying off workers. They don't really care about the United States. It's a European company now. So it's not the big three, now it's the big two, Ford and GM. Are they about to collapse? They're not going to just collapse. I mean, disappear. They're huge corporations, right? But they really need to start doing some serious restructuring. And if I was anyone on the board or voting members at Ford Motor Company, I would vote that Farley guy out on his ear. They've been going down, down, down. They've led the nation the last 3 years for most recalls. And look at all the problems they're having with the Ford vehicles. And the prices are insane. A loaded Ford pickup can be $91,000. What world are these people living in? And they make electric vehicles that nobody wants to buy. They're trying to force the guys working at the Ford dealers to buy the electric vehicles because they got to get them out on the street so people can see them because they got them on the lots and nobody's buying the things, right? And GM's the same thing. They're bleeding money with electric cars. Yeah, I don't think it's going to collapse and be nothing left, but they really need to start taking a hard look at what are they doing wrong. Don't just start thinking like they've been thinking for years. They get these bean counting accountants and call your vehicles down in Mexico. It's cheaper there. Yeah, and you get bad quality. The vehicles stink, and then everybody's like, hey, I'm going to buy a Japanese car instead. And they are, and that's what happens. They really need to take a look at restructuring. I mean, they can't even say, well, we're American. Hey, Honda's been making Hondas in Ohio for, decades, and they do a good job making them. I read one thing that said Honda Accord was the most American car out there. It had the most American car-made parts than any of them, so they really better start getting something going at Ford and GM, or they're going to be left behind. I know very few people that are buying any of their vehicles anymore other than big pickup trucks. They're still in a situation where the American pickup trucks is what people want, big, got everything everybody wants. I think Toyota made a gigantic mistake in their Tundras, going from the V8s to only the V6, and then unfortunately all those V6 engines were made in Alabama where they got metal fragments in them. Toyota obviously made a mistake making all those V6 twin turbos in Alabama for the Tundras and for some of the Lexus high-end cars. Those are expensive vehicles. The engines go out, they're going to get a bad taste in your mouth, and what's happened to Ford is they've made so many bad vehicles, people have so many bad tastes, they're starting to say, the heck with them, I'll go buy something else. Well, the holy grail of electric car battery seems to be out. Samsung just announced they have an actual solid-state battery that they're putting in cars. This isn't, oh, we're working on it. They actually have them. It's an all-solid-state battery. It does not have liquid electrolyte in it. At the SNE Battery Expo Day in Seoul, South Korea, their EV solid-state battery was shown, and they have delivered it to people who are making electric cars. Now, this is the beginning, and this is why I say wait on electric cars. Solid-state would be a big deal. Now, they admit they're expensive now, and they're only going to be on high-end cars. Now, solid state are smaller, lighter, and safer than the ones they have today. And they say they're putting them in luxury cars now, and they say they can go over 600 miles. They're only putting them in super premium cars now. They're really high ones. And interestingly enough, Toyota said that they're going to begin mass solid-state battery production, and they're going to also install them in premium cars. Toyota's going to start by putting them in the high-end Lexuses first. Expensive process. We'll see what happens. Will it trickle down? A lot of times it does. Stuff that were only in luxury cars when I was a kid, like air conditioning, well, it's in all the cars now. So, if this solid-state deal that Samsung has built, and they're putting them in cars now, comes to fruition, that is a game changer for electric vehicles. You still need an infrastructure and everything to charge them. And of course, they're telling you, in the ultra premium cars. So they're in cars that are $100,000 to $3 million, right? Most of us aren't going to be buying those things. If these Samsung solid-state batteries work out, it'll be interesting because, you got to test them over years, see if they hold up, how do they do on the actual road. They test them in labs and stuff, but there's a big difference between a laboratory and you driving them in a car that goes down the road hitting all the bumps and angles. The problem that they had with solid-state batteries was, from vibrations and other factors, the solid-state ones, they were growing sharp crystals that would poke holes and short the whole battery out. So it'll be interesting to see if these solid-state batteries actually come to fruition. Toyota says they're going to be putting them out by 2027. It's 3 years from now. But Samsung says they already have them out. They've shifted them to the luxury guys. And let's follow it out and see what happens with these luxury cars that have them in. Well, no big surprise here. The corporations have won yet again. Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash have won the Proposition 22 gig worker battle in California. That drove for all those companies said, we are your workers. We are your employees. And the company says, no, you're contract laborers. Well, the money of corporations, and who knows what went on in the back room door, said, no, you are not employees. You are still contract laborers. So as usual, the workers get screwed over by the corporations who have more money and power. And it was a unanimous decision. They got to everybody. The corporations spent millions and millions of dollars over a year-long battle. And guess what? Oh, what a shocker. They won. No, you're not our employees. You're the contract laborers, right? Just insanity. The technicality. They got lawyers involved. Everybody knows when lawyers get involved, there's problems. And so the workers, as usual, get shot down. Even though it's in California where, they try to say, oh, we care about everybody. The corporation still reigns supreme in California saying, no, you are not employees. I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me. It seems like they're employees to me. They're giving people rides under the Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, whatever. They should be seen as employees. They should be paying their unemployment insurance and all that other stuff, the health benefits, but they didn't get them. Now, if you know anything about car design, they've been using a lot more aluminum alloys than they used to because it's lightweight, more efficient. Well, one thing they never really used for are crankshafts. Your pistons go up and down. They're connected to the crankshaft, and that's what drives your wheels. Goes to the transmission, spins the wheels. So there were these Russian guys. They thought, we will make an aluminum crankshaft. It'll weigh a lot less, so there'll be less spinning mass. It'll be more efficient, get better gas mileage, have more power. Well, they tried, and needless to say, it failed. Now, they start out with a solid rod of duralumin. That's an aluminum alloy that they use in aviation and space industries. It's strong stuff, right? And they did put a surface ceramic coating on it, so it wouldn't wear, so you could not have bearings hooked up to an aluminum crankshaft. Aluminum so soft it would eat them up. So they coated it with ceramic coating. They thought, okay, let's start running it. Well, they started running it, and guess what? The engine just seized up after a very short period of time because the thermal expansion of aluminum is over twice that of iron. Most of them are made out of cast iron crankshafts. The really expensive ones are made out of steel. So the aluminum one, even though it was coated, it didn't wear out, but it expanded so much, it just locked up. It got so big, the bearings just locked up, and there wasn't enough power to turn it, and the engine locked up. So now you know why we really don't use aluminum crankshaft in cars, because they expand too much, and they take all that pressure spinning around, and then they will just stop spinning because they expanded too much. Well, Elon Musk says he's got good news for Tesla owners, and that his self-parking app is supposed to be up again, so you can push a button and your Tesla will go park itself, and then you push another button and it brings itself back. It's called the Smart Summon feature. Now, he says it's going to be available later in August. We'll see what actually happens. Now, what could possibly go wrong? You got your Tesla, you're at the hotel or whatever, you push a button, it goes parks itself, and then it comes back. I can see so many problems happening. Well, it misjudged it. It ran into the guy's car next to you. Now, on paper, theoretically interesting idea. Say you got to put your car in a tiny parking space. How are you going to get out? Well, you don't have to get out because the car has parked itself. And then when you push a button, it finds you. Now, for those of you who lose your car in giant parking lots, maybe not a bad idea, but let's see what happens. If this thing finally comes out, let's see how many things get run over or cars get run into by this thing parking itself and then bringing itself to you. A little bit too much technology, if you ask me. Well, yes, indeed, they're trying to get power now from the ocean waves. They now have a wave generator, here it is, called Ocean Energy. And it's a system where it doesn't matter which way the waves are going, it's continuously working because it uses a turbine. Now, a lot of them use a piston system, so it turns the pistons, they can generate electricity or compress whatever you want to. But of course, the problem with the piston is they only have power when they're going down. So these work all the time, these turbines. But there's two problems. One, they don't create all that much electricity. This 86-ton device, it's a pretty heavy device, right? It only creates 1.2 megawatts, all right? That's like 1,000 houses. Now, there are 144 million homes in the United States. Therefore, you would need 144,000 of these things. And there's a problem with the design that there's a tendency of stalling. So it's going to be working all the time. But hey, they're trying it out. Maybe eventually they'll make really big, gigantic ones that will be more efficient for taking all the energy of the waste in and out and in and out. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of energy. The only problem is, of course, it's going to take up an awful lot of space. Said they need a whole bunch of these things, right? And everybody knows something about waterfront property. Whether it's a river, whether it's the ocean, things that are moving all the time. The property's worth a bunch of money. The people that live there are rich, and they don't want these things ruining their view, right? You got a problem that you'd need a whole bunch of them, and that they really don't generate all that much electricity yet. To start, we'll see what happens. I mean, if you didn't know, I saw a thing years ago as a Canadian guy, and he sold a generator for guys in Canada with cabins that are near rivers with running water. And was relatively big size for a person. It'd take two guys to put it in a stream. And it generated electricity for their little cabin. And it was stainless steel, but every year you had to take it out because, of course, it freezes in Canada in the winter, right? In the ocean it doesn't, so you have to worry about it. It created energy. This thing was made years ago, but it only creates a limited amount of energy, just like these things. So they need an awful lot of them for the kind of power that we use, just to power our houses. And that doesn't include all the rest, right? And houses only use a small percentage of the power in the United States. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.